They say the Vatican hides more than faith. Beneath its sacred halls stretch over 50 kilometers of sealed corridors, a secret library holding forbidden books that could rewrite human history. From the lost Gospels of Christ to records of vanished civilizations and Templar relics, it is said the Church guards truths too dangerous for the world to know. But what if one man, reborn through centuries, finally found the key to its heart? What if the library itself was alive? The Vatican slept under the soft hum of midnight prayers. The marble courtyards were empty, silvered by moonlight, and only the whisper of ancient bells drifted through the air. Beneath the holy city, far below the catacombs known to pilgrims, another world breathed in silence, a labyrinth of corridors and chambers sealed by centuries of secrecy. Few even within the Church knew it existed. Fewer still had entered it and returned. In one of those hidden halls, a candle burned before a sealed iron door engraved with Latin words worn by time. Custodes Veritatis, the keepers of truth. The air was thick with the scent of dust and oil, of old parchment and prayer. Behind that door, countless tomes lay stacked in forgotten order, scrolls bound in human skin, tablets of crystal light, codices said to have been written before the Great Flood. Some claimed they contained the words of angels, others, the memories of stars. Every generation, a chosen one was called to guard them. And every few centuries, one of them would be born with memories that did not belong to this world. His name changed with each era, Aurelius, Lucien Aurelian, but the same fire burned behind his eyes. He dreamed of corridors drenched in gold light, of whispering voices calling him by names he had never heard. In the winter of 2025, under the echo of Vatican bells, a man named Aurelian Voss awoke from a dream he could not forget. In his mind burned an image of that iron door, and a voice, ancient and calm, that whispered, "The library remembers you." Aurelian sat alone in his apartment overlooking the Tiber, dawn spilling over the river like molten gold. His hands trembled as he turned the pages of a book he didn't remember buying, a collection of obscure Latin prayers, bound in dark leather that smelled faintly of smoke. On the inside cover, written in faded ink, was a phrase that chilled him to the bone, "E for the one who remembers." The night before, the dream had been different. He wasn't merely watching the corridors beneath the Vatican, he was walking through them. He could feel the chill of the stone under his fingers, the soft vibration of chanting echoing from unseen mouths. When he awoke, the scent of candle wax still clung to his clothes. He tried to dismiss it as exhaustion. But then, in the margins of that mysterious book, he noticed a symbol, a cross encircled by a serpent devouring its tail. The mark of the Custodes Veritatis. He had seen it before, carved into the walls of his dreams. Later that day, while teaching a seminar on medieval manuscripts at the Sapienza University, Aurelian mentioned the symbol in passing. A visiting historian, a quiet woman named Dr. Elara Morn, froze mid-note. Her gaze locked onto him. "Where did you see that?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. That night, she met him again in a small cafe near Piazza Navona. She placed an envelope on the table, yellowed with age, sealed with red wax bearing the same symbol. "You're not the first to dream of the library," she said. "But perhaps you're the last who's meant to find it." Aurelian broke the seal. Inside was an ancient map, not of any country, but of chambers spiraling beneath the Vatican-like veins under skin. At its center, the same words glowed faintly in the lamplight, Custodes Veritatis. The parchment was fragile, its surface cracked like dry riverbeds. Faded lines twisted across it in spirals, intersecting symbols that shimmered faintly when touched by light. Aurelian ran his fingers over the ink. It pulsed faintly beneath his skin, almost alive. He felt a warmth, like the echo of a heartbeat. Alara leaned closer, whispering, "This isn't an ordinary map. It's written in lux scriptum, the language of illuminated codes. Monks used it only for texts forbidden to be read by the uninitiated." She pulled a small ultraviolet lamp from her satchel and shone it across the parchment. Hidden words bloomed into view, Latin phrases intertwined with mathematical patterns, constellations, and what appeared to be anatomical sketches of the human brain. Aurelian's breath caught. These stars, they align with the night sky above Rome, but not today's sky. The alignment is ancient. This was drawn over 1,000 years ago. Alara nodded slowly. 1500, to be exact. The ink used here is consistent with manuscripts from the 9th century. But there's something else. She turned the map over. On the back, faint but visible, was a sigil of a man's face, etched in perfect symmetry. The resemblance was undeniable. It was Aurelian. He stared in silence, heart pounding. How is this possible? Alara's expression hardened. That's what the custodes have been asking for centuries. Each time one like you appears, the library awakens. Each time, history bends. The cafe's lights flickered, and the map shimmered again. Words appeared along the edge of the parchment, glowing with spectral light, return what was taken. The memory must be made whole. Alara's eyes widened. It's reacting to you. The map isn't leading us somewhere, Aurelian. It's remembering. The night air over St. Peter's Square shimmered with the hum of distant prayers. Pilgrims knelt beneath the basilica's shadow, unaware that below their feet lay corridors untouched by sunlight for over a millennium. Aurelian and Alara moved quietly between marble pillars, their footsteps swallowed by the vast silence of the Vatican after midnight. Alara held a small device, an ancient key fused with modern technology, crafted by a secret network of historians who had been watching the Vatican archives for decades. The entrance isn't marked, as she whispered. It's disguised as a confession booth in the chapel of St. Helena. But it only opens when the right psalm is spoken. Inside the chapel, candlelight trembled against walls painted with the story of Constantine's mother discovering the true cross. Aurelian approached the ornate wooden booth, tracing the carvings with his fingertips. Latin verses covered its frame, verses he somehow knew by heart. Without hesitation, he whispered, "In tenebris lux invenator." In darkness, the light is found. The floor beneath them shifted. A soft grinding echoed as centuries of dust fell away, revealing a spiral staircase descending into darkness. Cold air rose from below, carrying the scent of myrrh and stone. They descended in silence, the light from Alara's lamp flickering against walls carved with symbols, the serpent and the cross intertwined. At the base, a heavy gate of iron awaited, sealed with 7 locks. Yet as Aurelian approached, each lock clicked open by itself, one after another, as though recognizing an old master. Alara's voice trembled. "They know you're here." Beyond the gate stretched a vast corridor of pillars, leading into darkness that breathed like a living thing. On the ceiling above, painted in fading gold, was a single phrase that made Aurelian's blood run cold. "Only the remembered may pass." The staircase ended in a narrow passage where every sound seemed amplified, their footsteps, their breath, even the pulse of their hearts. The air was heavy, thick with the weight of centuries. Strange symbols glimmered faintly along the walls, forming patterns that pulsed in rhythm with the flicker of Alara's light. "This place feels alive," as she murmured, her voice echoing back at her, once, twice, then again, as if the walls themselves were repeating her words. Aurelian stopped. He could feel it too, a hum beneath the stone, low and resonant, like a chant buried under layers of time. He pressed his palm against the wall, and for a heartbeat, the corridor shifted. The carvings shimmered and rearranged into something new, not words, but memories. He saw flashes, monks writing by candlelight, flames consuming scrolls, a man in chains whispering prayers as he was led deeper into the darkness. The vision vanished as quickly as it came. Ilara touched his shoulder. "What did you see?" He swallowed hard. "I think I was here. Once. A long time ago." They moved forward until the passage widened into a vast circular hall. Pillars lined the perimeter, each carved with the faces of long-dead scholars. In the center stood a pool of black water so still it mirrored the ceiling, a mosaic of stars in gold leaf. Ilara knelt beside the water. They called this the Chamber of Echoes, as she whispered. The custodes believed the souls of those who entered here never left. They became part of the silence. A sudden sound broke that silence, soft at first, then distinct. Footsteps. Coming from behind them. Aurelian turned sharply, light trembling in his hand. The corridor behind them was empty, yet the echoes of those steps continued, moving closer, circling them like invisible specters. From the darkness, a voice whispered, calm, familiar, and ancient. "Welcome back, Aurelian." The voice hung in the air like a forgotten prayer, vibrating through the stone walls. Aurelian froze, the name echoing in his skull, Aurelian. The way it was spoken carried centuries of recognition, as if the speaker had been waiting a lifetime to say it again. Ilara lifted her lamp toward the darkness. "Who's there?" Her voice quivered but did not break. From the far edge of the chamber, a faint light stirred, a shimmer of movement, slow and deliberate. Out of the shadows stepped a tall figure draped in robes the color of dust and moonlight. His face was obscured by a hood, but his hands were pale and thin, their veins like threads of ink. Around his neck hung a chain bearing the symbol, the serpent and the cross. "You have returned," the figure said softly. "After all this time." Aurelian's pulse thundered. "Who are you?" The figure lowered his hood. His face was ageless, neither young nor old, marked by faint glyphs that seemed to shift beneath his skin. His eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the light of Alara's lamp. "I am what remains of the Custodes Veritatis," he said. "The last keeper of the library's threshold. I have guarded the memory since the fire of Alexandria, when the first of us took the oath." Ilara stepped forward. "Then the library is real." The keeper inclined his head. "Real? More than that. It is alive, a mind of ink and shadow, built to remember what mankind was never meant to forget." He turned his gaze toward Aurelian. "And you, as always, are its heart." Aurelian staggered back. "What do you mean, as always?" The keeper smiled faintly. "You have been born 1,000 times to protect what others sought to destroy. Every cycle, you forget. Every age, you find your way back. But this time, he paused, eyes narrowing. This time, the library is dying. Before Aurelian could speak, the chamber shuddered, a deep, resonant tremor that rippled through the floor. The pool at the center quivered, its reflection fracturing into chaos. The keeper's eyes flashed gold. It knows you are here. The tremor deepened until the walls themselves seemed to breathe. Dust drifted from the ceiling in slow spirals as faint light seeped through the cracks in the stone. The sound was not destruction, it was awakening. Aurelian felt the pull before he saw it. The pool at the chamber's center began to glow, rippling with a light that was neither fire nor reflection. Within its depths, letters formed, not written, but alive, swirling in liquid patterns that reassembled into words only he could read. Ilara shielded her eyes. What is it? Aurelian's voice trembled. It's speaking. He stepped closer. The glow intensified, bathing his face in pale gold. Words emerged in perfect Latin, a memory bound. Heart divided. The keeper returns to heal the fracture. The moment he finished reading, the world tilted. The chamber around them dissolved into light, blinding, pure, infinite. When it faded, he was no longer standing beside Ilara. He stood in another time. Monks hurried through candlelit corridors, their faces hidden by hoods. Bells tolled above. Aurelian looked down at his hands. They were not his. They were younger, calloused, ink-stained. He wore the robes of a custode. He stumbled backward, heart pounding. No. I'm remembering. A voice, faint and distant, echoed across the vision. Aurelian, seal the codex before the fire spreads. Flames licked at the edges of parchment. He felt the heat, the smoke clawing at his lungs, and then, just as suddenly, he was back in the present. Ilara knelt beside him, eyes wide with fear. You disappeared, as she whispered. For almost a minute, you weren't here. The keeper watched silently, hands clasped. The library is showing you fragments of itself. Each memory you recover brings it closer to consciousness. Aurelian looked toward the glowing pool, its light now pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. If it's alive, he said quietly, then what happens when it remembers everything? The keeper's expression darkened. Then the world will, too. And not all truths were meant to awaken. The chamber dimmed as the light within the pool condensed into a single glowing thread. It rose from the water like smoke and wrapped itself around Aurelian's wrist, burning faintly but leaving no mark. The moment it touched him, his vision blurred, and once again the present fell away. He stood in a monastery carved deep within a mountain. The year was 846 AD. The air was thick with the scent of burning vellum and molten wax. Monks in dark robes shouted prayers as flames devoured shelves of manuscripts. Outside, the thunder of hooves echoed, invaders, storming the holy citadel that guarded what would one day become the Vatican's deepest secret. In the midst of the chaos, Aurelian, or rather, the first Aurelian, clutched a heavy tome bound in iron clasps. Its title glowed faintly in the firelight, Codex Aeternum, the Book of Fire. It was said to contain the primordial knowledge, the fusion of divine word and celestial science. Seal it, shouted a fellow custode, his voice breaking. If it falls into their hands, humanity will burn with it. Aurelian ran through smoke-filled corridors, his lungs searing. The walls trembled as fire consumed the sacred vaults. He reached a stone altar and laid the codex upon it. Blood dripped from his palm as he traced the ancient sigil, serpent and cross, whispering the forbidden oath. Memory divided shall one day return as one. A column of light burst from the book, tearing through the flames. The sound that followed was not thunder, it was like the cry of the earth itself. The monastery collapsed, burying everything beneath centuries of silence. Then, the vision shattered. Aurelian gasped, collapsing onto the cold floor of the present-day chamber. Ilara's hands steadied him as he blinked away the haze of fire and smoke that wasn't there. He looked down. A faint burn now marked his wrist, shaped like the serpent and cross. Ilara's eyes widened. That mark, it's the same one on the codex seals. The keeper stepped closer, voice low. The library is giving you back what you sacrificed to save it. But if it's restoring memory, then the codex is awakening too. And when it does, he paused, his gaze fixed on the trembling light of the pool. The fire will rise again. Hours passed, though time felt fractured inside the vault. The glow of the pool had dimmed to a soft pulse, like the slow heartbeat of the earth. Aurelian sat beside it, his wrist still marked by the sigil, the burn faintly warm beneath his skin. Ilara studied him silently, her eyes moving between the scar and the map that now shimmered with faint light again. The Codex of Fire, as she murmured. Every record of it was erased. Even the Vatican denies it ever existed. The keeper moved toward the far wall and placed his palm on the stone. It responded with a low hum. That is because it was never meant to exist in this world again, he said. It was sealed, hidden within the library's second heart. A chamber that breathes between memory and matter. Aurelian frowned. Between memory and matter? The keeper turned to him, eyes gleaming. You would call it the astral vault. The library's consciousness stretches beyond what can be touched. The codex lies there, whispering, waiting for its guardian to remember the final key. Before Aurelian could reply, a faint sound filled the chamber, a rustling, like thousands of pages turning at once. The shelves that lined the distant walls began to stir. Books trembled, scrolls unfurled themselves, their parchment glowing with spectral light. Ilara gasped. It's speaking. Voices began to weave through the air, layered, dissonant, yet melodic. Words in Latin, Greek, Sumerian, and something older still, a language that resonated not in the ear but in the soul. Aurelian rose slowly, entranced. The whisper grew louder, forming phrases that only he could understand. The codex remembers the fire. The keeper must bind what was divided. He felt the mark on his wrist ignite, burning brighter. Visions flooded his mind, maps, constellations, names of lost cities, Alexandria, Nineveh, Atlantis. Each fading into the next, all pointing to one symbol, a circle divided by flame. Ilara grabbed his arm. Aurelian, what do you see? He met her eyes, breath unsteady. The codex isn't lost, he whispered. It's calling us. It wants to be found. The keeper's expression turned grim. Then you must understand, child, to find it is to awaken it. And to awaken it is to risk the end of memory itself. The keeper led them deeper through the labyrinth, past corridors where the air shimmered like water. The deeper they went, the less real the world seemed. Walls blurred, steps softened, and the echo of their movements began to drift out of sync, as though time itself lagged behind. "This is the threshold," the keeper said quietly. "Beyond this point, the library ceases to obey your world's laws. It is neither matter nor spirit, it is memory made flesh." They entered a vast circular chamber whose walls were engraved with countless symbols, some glowing faintly, others pulsing like living veins. In the center stood a stone dais surrounded by a ring of golden sand. Above it floated a faint distortion, not quite visible, yet undeniable, like a heat mirage in the shape of a doorway. Aurelian felt drawn to it. The mark on his wrist began to pulse again, each throb echoing through the chamber like a drumbeat. "This is it," he whispered. "The second heart." Ilarer's voice trembled. "How do we enter?" The keeper stepped forward and drew a blade of crystal from his robes, its surface shimmering with words that shifted between languages. He held it toward Aurelian. "Only the one who bears the mark may open the way. But know this, once you cross, the library will not protect you. You will walk through what remains of your own forgotten lives." Aurelian hesitated. Visions flickered behind his eyes. Flames, stone corridors, the codex blazing like a sun. He nodded. "Then let me remember." He pressed the blade to his wrist. Light burst forth, spiraling into the air. The distortion expanded into a brilliant vortex, its edges humming with the voices of 1,000 souls. Ilarer shielded her face from the storm of sound and light. As Aurelian stepped forward, the keeper's voice echoed one last time. "Every truth has its price. Once the second heart opens, it cannot be closed again." Then Aurelian vanished into the light. The sound that followed was not a scream, it was the deep, resonant sigh of a world exhaling its secrets. Light enveloped him, vast and endless, not blinding, but soft, as though he stood inside the breath of creation itself. There was no ground, no sky, only a swirling ocean of light and shadow that shimmered with voices. Shapes formed and dissolved, faces, cities, stars, all rising and falling in a rhythm that felt alive. Aurelian took a step, though there was nowhere to step upon. The air, if it could be called that, moved like liquid glass beneath his feet. Every motion rippled through the world, and with each ripple, he saw memories. Not his own, but fragments of humanity's story, the first fire, the first prayer, the first lie. The veil of memory, it whispered a voice all around him, not the keeper's, but something older, infinite. You walk within what mankind forgets. He turned, searching for the source. The light coalesced into figures, thousands of them, translucent and graceful. They floated around him like spirits, each holding a fragment of text that glowed faintly in their hands. The memories of the library, he realized. Every life, every secret, every forgotten truth stored as living thought. One of the figures drifted closer, a woman cloaked in starlight. Her face was familiar, though he could not place it. She spoke in a tone that vibrated through his bones. You have returned to the source once more, Aurelian. You sealed the codex. You swore the oath. Now the fracture must be healed. The fracture? He asked, his voice faint. The light around him dimmed, shifting into a vast rift, a wound in the fabric of the world, bleeding shadows into the ocean of light. The sound of it was unbearable, like 1,000 prayers unraveling at once. "This is what the fire began," Ishi said. "When you divided knowledge from soul. The Codex remembers, but the world does not. The healing must begin, or the library will collapse into silence forever." Aurelian reached toward the rift, the mark on his wrist blazing brighter than ever. "Then tell me," he said, voice trembling. "Where is the Codex now?" The woman smiled sadly. "Where it has always been, within you." The moment her words echoed, the light shattered. Aurelian fell, through centuries, through lives, through memory itself. The deeper Lucien descended, the more the air seemed alive, whispering, vibrating, pulsing with the heartbeat of knowledge itself. The final vault was unlike anything he had seen. It wasn't built, it grew. The walls were made of some organic material, like polished ivory veins intertwined with golden threads of light. The shelves breathed faintly, inhaling dust and exhaling whispers in forgotten languages. At the center stood a massive tome resting on a pedestal of obsidian. Its cover shimmered like liquid night, and symbols rearranged themselves each time Lucien blinked. It was the Codex Aeternum, the eternal book, said to contain the record of every soul that had ever lived, and every truth forbidden by kings and priests alike. When Lucien touched it, visions erupted. He saw himself, or rather, his past selves, as a monk in Alexandria, a scholar in Baghdad, a Templar in Jerusalem, a scientist in Florence. Each life was drawn to this same light, serving the same hidden order, Custodes Veritatis, the keepers of truth. Then the vault trembled. From the shadows emerged a figure robed in crimson, the High Keeper. "You were never meant to read it," he warned, voice echoing like thunder. "Knowledge beyond balance consumes those unready." But Lucien's eyes were now ablaze with golden fire. "I was born ready," he whispered, opening the book fully, and the room exploded in radiant light, as if the universe itself was being rewritten through him. The walls began to pulse faster, reacting to the awakening of something ancient, something that had been waiting centuries for his touch. The explosion of light did not destroy Lucien, it remade him. The chamber dissolved into swirling constellations. Every page of the Codex Aeternum unfolded like a galaxy, each letter burning with divine geometry. He floated in a sea of pure memory, witnessing the birth and death of worlds, the rise of empires, the silencing of prophets. He saw the truth. The Vatican library was not merely a vault, it was a living archive, an organism that recorded consciousness itself. Every seeker who touched the Codex became part of it, their essence absorbed into the great mind beneath the holy city. The keepers had guarded it not to hoard knowledge, but to protect humanity from truths too vast, too shattering to contain. Lucien's pulse synchronized with the libraries. His eyes became mirrors of galaxies, his veins rivers of light. Ancient voices murmured in his mind, the same souls he had been across centuries, each offering fragments of wisdom and warning. "You are the culmination," they whispered. "The bridge between eras. The one who remembers." The crimson-robed High Keeper knelt before him, trembling. "Then it is true," he breathed. "The prophecy of the eternal Scribe." Lucien's voice echoed like thunder in a cathedral. "No prophecy," he said. "Only return." And as he spoke, the walls split open, revealing endless corridors spiraling downward, 50 kilometers of forgotten truth awakening, ready to breathe again. Lucien stepped forward, and the corridors before him seemed to unfold like the petals of a great celestial flower. Each passage pulsed with light, each door whispering names of the lost. The deeper he went, the louder the murmurs grew, until words began to take shape, forming sentences in languages older than creation. He passed scrolls that glowed like embers, books bound in starlight, and mirrors that reflected memories instead of faces. On one pedestal lay a relic, a fragment of the emerald tablet, shimmering with the same symbols that had appeared in his dreams for lifetimes. He reached out and felt a shock, a recognition. The tablet resonated with his touch, as if greeting an old friend. The High Keeper followed, his steps echoing faintly. "Every secret here exists for a reason," he said solemnly. "Knowledge is alive. It remembers who listens and who forgets." Lucien turned toward him, his voice calm but filled with power. "Then let it remember me." At that moment, the air around them thickened, vibrating with impossible harmony. The books lifted from their shelves and spiraled through the air like a storm of wisdom. Words detached from the pages, swirling around Lucien in golden streams, etching themselves into his skin like living tattoos. He saw visions, the Ark of the Covenant hidden beneath sand and stone, the truth about Atlantis' fall, the celestial map of origins beyond Earth. Each revelation struck like lightning, yet he felt no pain, only purpose. Then the ground trembled. A voice, deep and ancient as the cosmos itself, resonated through the chamber. "He who knows all must choose what to remember." Lucien froze, for he understood. To open the final seal, he would have to give up everything he had ever been. The words echoed through Lucien's soul like a divine verdict. He who knows all must choose what to remember. Around him, the living pages quivered, awaiting his decision. The Codex Aeternum hovered above the obsidian altar, its light softer now, almost pleading. He felt the weight of every life he had ever lived pressing upon him, the monk who burned for knowledge in Alexandria, the Templar who died protecting a secret beneath Solomon's temple, the astronomer who charted forbidden stars in Florence. All his past selves stood behind him, transparent but alive, watching with silent reverence. The High Keeper lowered his head. "The Codex offers omniscience," he said. "But to hold it, you must release yourself. You will cease to be Lucien." Lucien looked at his reflection in a nearby mirror of mercury. His eyes no longer held a man's gaze, they held eternity. "Perhaps that is the point," he murmured. He stepped toward the floating book. As his fingers brushed its edge, the chamber dissolved into starlight. He saw every truth, the origins of humankind, the architects of civilization, the moment consciousness first awoke in the cosmos. He saw that divinity was not above men, but within them, scattered like seeds in the soil of time. A single tear traced his cheek, glowing faintly before evaporating into gold. "Then I choose to remember hope," he whispered. The Codex pulsed once, a heartbeat of creation, and then sank into his chest, vanishing completely. The light faded. The walls quieted. The library fell still. The High Keeper rose slowly. "It is done," he said. "The eternal Scribe walks once more." And as Lucien turned to leave, the corridors rearranged themselves, closing the path behind him, sealing the knowledge until the world was ready to ask again. Lucien opened his eyes and gasped. The golden light of the Codex was gone, replaced by the familiar shadows of the stone chamber beneath the Vatican. Alara knelt beside him, relief flooding her face. "You?" "You're back," as she whispered. He flexed his hands, feeling the warmth of mortal flesh again, the heartbeat that belonged to a single lifetime. Yet inside him, the weight of countless lives remained, memories stitched together into one consciousness. He was both man and archive, traveler and guardian. "The library, it's alive," he murmured, voice thick. "It remembers through me. But I chose what to carry. Hope. That is what will guide humanity forward." Alara helped him to his feet. Around them, the corridors of the second heart had vanished, replaced by the quiet stillness of centuries-old stone. The keeper remained, his crimson robes now lighter, almost translucent, his gaze calm. "You have done what none before could," he said. "You are the bridge. The Codex has entrusted itself to you. The knowledge is safe, yet it waits, as it always has, for those ready to seek it." Lucien looked at the sealed iron door, the entrance to the hidden labyrinth. He knew it would remain closed for now, but the library's pulse still throbbed beneath the Vatican, a heartbeat echoing in tune with his own. "Then our work begins," he said softly. "Not to hoard the knowledge, but to guide it, to protect it, to let it awaken only when the world is ready." Alara nodded, a mixture of awe and determination in her eyes. Together, they turned back toward the dim candlelight, leaving the corridors of memory behind, but carrying their resonance forever. The morning sun spilled over St. Peter's Square, soft and indifferent. Pilgrims moved through the piazza, unaware that beneath their feet lay 50 kilometers of secrets, a living archive of humanity's hidden truths. Lucien, or rather, Aurelian reborn, walked among them, feeling the weight of countless lives and memories stitched into his soul. The keeper had vanished, leaving only a whisper in the shadows, "The library will call again when it must." Alara walked beside him, carrying a small leather satchel filled with fragments of recovered texts. "Do you ever wonder," as she asked quietly, "if people are ready for what we've seen?" Lucien smiled faintly, his eyes reflecting centuries of knowledge and sacrifice. "The world will awaken in time. We are not keepers of power, but of balance. The Custodes Veritatis has always existed to guide, to protect, to remember, through each generation, through each life." He paused, feeling the subtle pulse beneath his feet, the heartbeat of the hidden library. A voice echoed faintly in his mind, ancient yet familiar, "Remember, and the world remembers with you." For the first time in lifetimes, he felt both burdened and free. The knowledge of the library, the Codex of Fire, and all the hidden truths of human history were now alive within him. Yet it was not a weapon, it was a compass. "Then our journey continues," he said, turning to Alara. "Through time, through memory, we watch, we learn, and we protect. The legacy of the Custodes lives on, and so must we." Above, the bells of the Vatican rang. Below, the library waited, patient and eternal, knowing that the eternal Scribe would rise again whenever history demanded it. And somewhere deep beneath Rome, the corridors pulsed with quiet life, whispering the promise of secrets yet to be revealed.